Vlog on a blog. Tomorrow's news today. Get to the truth. Listen, learn, live. Visit us at Yahowah.com.
It is pretty slick. Guys love the new intro. And this is the first time we've had Captain Kirk on after we've created your avatar. You like yourself in avatarial form?
I do.
Yeah.
And Paint loves it.
Paint loves it. So how many times have you had somebody draw you? You're the artist.
I rarely to come think of it. Yeah.
And yet I think they did a pretty decent job, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
They did.
They really got rid of all this and everything. It was good.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you have a special place, and I have even, in fact, everybody that's presented there has a very special place with our stylist, and our stylist does a fine job of buffing us up.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We all do. In fact, you can see this is the now the homepage of the vlog on the vlog from Facebook. And you can see this is Leah's work as well. She's the beautiful lady behind my right shoulder there on that avatar. So we now have an official vlog on the vlog page that is feeding this vlog on the vlog, which we'll go through here this morning. You can see there's 2 followers and 4 following. We are not soliciting followers. If you want to follow, that is just fine. But we're not soliciting people anywhere on any one of our platforms. You want to follow, that is your opportunity. If you are have nefarious intent, then be careful, because we do have the authorization from and responsibility from the big guy to dispatch those who are antagonistic to Sheowl. So you may want to be careful on your attack. The reason we have a new vlog on the vlog page, and sometimes things work out just beautifully, is that we had this page called Yahowah. And it was a professional page created for a single reason, which was to populate the blog page on the website and then to do this vlog on the vlog program. And for reasons that no one can explain and that you can't challenge, Meta's AI has came to the crazy idea that you're impersonating somebody that you're not. Now, I can tell you that no one has ever posted on that page. I don't even think they can post on the page. Leah's even tried to post on the page. Rich has. You can't even post on that page as a professional page unless you are me and you're signed in as me. But somehow they came up with the idea that you're an inauthentic you. Now, this might drive them crazy, having an avatar of me as an inauthentic me, but therefore they shut it down. And fine, it took all of 5 minutes to create a new professional page. We already had these images. I just slid the images in, and the only negative is the feed that you get on these things is geared to what you respond to, and so you start off with no feed at all. And so it does. Now you're actually copying from another place where you have an image and a story that you want to respond to, and you're building it up that way. But it's a clean, fresh start. Love having the Yada's vlog on the vlog as a separate page, and I think the graphics are just beautiful.
They are.
Yeah, so I'm happy to, and it ties in with what we have just done. So we'll begin here now. A couple of news notes. We speaking of vlogs, we have encouraged everyone who is part of the Covenant family to earn Yahweh's trust and participate and make a contribution by doing a program. And we have 4 of our younger Covenant members who have a Y to Z group. We have Mr. I have shaken hands with every Covenant member because I've been across this country 4 or 5 times. Shannon, with our gregarious one who is Matt with cats, not just doing a call your next witness. They have brought the witnesses to Shannon, and they're in Shannon's home. And those two are just, they're just perfect together in terms of the chemistry of them. And they do such a nice job of interviewing covenant members. So it's a marvelous show. And then you have Mariah and her husband doing the book club. Love Will O'Brien's presentation, which really is a book club type presentation. He's going through right now the 119th Mizmor as it's presented, and in an introduction to God 3. That's the psalm that Dode wrote on the Torah. Marvelous. And he is really a natural at it. And, one of my favorite people in the world. And he's just so credible. Roger Bankston has a show. It's just terrific what we have. And of course, Kevin, you've been the glue that keeps all this together. You're the guy that everybody goes to start their shows, to be able to save them and present them. And we now have the family page. Assume that the family page is going to go live very soon, because as you know, you shared it with me in a chat. And I'm really
a private message.
A private message.
I shared it with you with a private. Yeah.
On a you want to try private? Was that a private message? And
it was.
You know that I don't think I've had a conversation in the last 20 years that I would view as private. My life is about as public and as open to scrutiny as they come. And so the first thing I did is take a look at the page, and I said, "That's great. Let's do that." And there were a couple of thoughts that we'll share for those who check out the family page, which will go live here, I'm sure, very shortly, maybe even today. Is that I had originally thought we would organize everything in the family page by specific blog. So you'd have like Call Your Next Witness, and then you'd have Roger Bankston's, you'd have the Y to Z, and then you'd have the Yahowah book club, and you'd have them all in chronological order. And I saw them just hodgepodge. Hodgepodge, probably not a very good technical or marketing term, but that's how they're currently presented. And you said, you were going to put thumbnails on them, and then you were going to organize them by category, which was the original intent. And I said, let's not do that. First of all, if we did that, we'd have everybody's first show up first. And everybody's first show is their worst show. It was for me. It was for everybody. You have to work at this. I mean, the first show that Will did, he didn't have a headset, and he had a terrible sound experience. So your first show is your worst show. Your second show is your second worst show. Why begin with your worst shows?
Absolutely.
So we want to go the opposite direction. And second, who are we to say, with everybody contributing, that one show should have every one of its before you see the next show? And so the thought is, first of all, to present them with the faces that are participating in them, as opposed to a branded thumbnail, so much better. Let the faces shine. Love those faces. And second, we're gonna do it so that it is last in, first up. So whoever did the first vlog as a contributing contributor to all of this, theirs is going to be at the bottom, at the very last. But the people that were first in doing this have done the most, which means they'll also have vlogs at the very top of the page as well. And I think we're just going to present them as they are produced. Now, you'll also notice that right now there's some people that have done wonderful blogs that are not presented, and it's really because of a permissions thing. They've presented them under their name, and they've put them someplace, and they have to officially give Kevin permission to put them up, and then it will be complete, because we probably have twice as much or 3 times as much already as what is being launched on the family page. But it's beautiful. Love the presentation. And one of the nice things about it too is that Joe created an admin tool to do it. And then Kevin, you took the responsibility of actually doing it using his admin tool.
Yeah. I just clicked away. I mean, it really takes the work out of everything. You're like, hey, this is what you want it to look like. This is how many columns you want. This is the colors, the whole lot. It builds the header, the footer, everything for you, so it matches the site, and then you just bring the content in. So yeah. Joe made it.
So we're giving everybody a chance to share who they are, what they know, how they came to be part of the covenant family, their outreach to others, thoughtful reviews of the news, of the books, and just of their lives. And what a tremendous part of the site it is. The other thing is all the books now have audio page turners. So every single book now you can have talk to you. You don't even have to read them anymore. You click on go and the books start talking to you. Every one of them has multiple voices, so it keeps it interesting. And they all turn the page for you automatically. They have a little highlights, like putting your finger on the page. So you look away, you're fine. You know exactly where it will follow by and highlight the paragraph in soft yellow. That it's actually reading to you. And as I say, it keeps you interested because the voices are so interesting through this whole process. But the talking books is, particularly with the amount of books that we have. We've got 38 now and 30,000 pages of books, and they're all available now in that format. All we want to do now is add an avatar. So it just makes the whole visual presentation a little more interesting. But they are all up and working. So very pleased with where we are on the website. All right. All of that being the case, let's try out the Yahowah vlog on the vlog. So here's the first picture. This is one I took from X. And this is something that is important for people to understand. The very first of what probably is 10,000 unheralded and I think profoundly important insights that I derived was this one. That this notion that agnostics and atheists have, that God couldn't be lovable or even reasonable if he were to say, worship me, love me, obey me, or you'll burn forever in hell. That if God had actually said such a thing, he would be sadistic. He would not be lovable. He would not be approachable. He would not be worth knowing. He would be a psychopath. And it is something that keeps a very substantial number of atheists and agnostics from approaching the Towrah and Prophets, because they associate the Towrah and Prophets with religion, and the religious God is pathetic. Now, the first book that I translated was the book of Hosea. And in the book of Hosea, one of the very first profoundly important insights that I deduced, this is now almost 25 years ago, maybe 24 years ago, was that God does not say that there are only two destinations for human souls. So God's testimony is inconsistent with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And as a matter of fact, he speaks most vociferously of souls simply dying, of them dissolving so that they dissipate into nothingness. Now, that is to be contrasted with an eternal existence in Sheowl, separated from God, or an eternal existence in Shamaym, together with God. And the overwhelming number of references speak of this, of the dissolution of a soul. And so it dies, it ceases to exist. And that isn't hell, that isn't a penalty. It means that a person was given a mortal existence. They had every opportunity to make whatever choices they wished to make. They did not know God. God did not know them. There's no reward. There is no punishment of any kind. The soul simply ceases to exist and fades into oblivion. Marvelous realization, and it changes everything. And no one had ever perceived it before. And there it was, not only in the book of Hosea, made abundantly clear, but we've now seen it everywhere. It just throughout God's Towrah and Prophets, the vast majority of human souls simply die. They no longer exist, and they had all their opportunity, but no reward, no punishment. To end up in hell, which is actually Sheowl, you have to do something that indicates that you are not deceived, you are a deceiver. So you have to get on the front side of that, not the back side of it. And in so doing, you have to harm God's people in such a way that it is a requirement for him to impose some form of recompense. In other words, if you were an Inquisition guard and torturing Jews, if God did not hold those people accountable, then he could not be just. You've got a mother goddess cult that is out of control today. And the things that they're posting and everything they post, I cite what God actually said and prove that they're false, and they simply go on to the next lie. God could not be fair or just if he did not hold them accountable and send them to Sheol for what they have done, because of their discrediting his lone voice at this time. And so God has to do that. And if he didn't, he wouldn't be fair or just. However, there are no fires. There's no burning. It's presented as the equivalent of, it's not exactly a black hole, but it's presented as a lightless place where time exists eternally, but no other dimension. And so it's a place of separation and of eternal incarceration. So those who go there, their soul could not have died, because it's their soul that stays there forever. But again, no fires, no torture, and no God. God isn't there doing anything to anybody. Now, that's not true with Islam. It's not true with Christianity. You know, the Christian and the Islamic God love to torture people, particularly the Islamic God. Every time he's depicted in the Quran, he's torturing people, and he's torturing physical bodies. And all three religions believe in physical bodies, so you could have a hell with bodies. But that's a religious presentation that has nothing to do with the actual testimony in the Towrah and Prophets of Yahowah, who happens to be God. So the atheist, rather than opposing God because of this concept, ought to embrace him, because his solution is brilliant, it's rational, it is exactly as it should be. And so they're making an argument against religion and dragging God into it, and therefore they're putting themselves in harm's way because they're slandering God. So in this case, I wrote to this individual on X when I responded to their post that you have been deceived by the religions that you are trying to destroy. There is a God. His name is Yahweh. And he said no such thing. In fact, he provides three options for souls, and therefore is completely fair. It is an invitation for thinking people to begin differentiating the Towrah and Prophets from religious drivel. So consider the evidence at Yahowah.com.
Yeah, Torah is not law. Torah is teaching and guidance from Yahweh. Yeah. So to say that to lump them in with religion that wants to lead people astray, that's its entire intent.
The Torah being law is a Jewish thing in terms of Judaism imposing laws, but they derive their laws in the Talmud. The Torah is teaching and guidance. Christianity only uses Torah as law so that they can assail it, because they want to pretend that you're saved through grace. That really has nothing to do with this particular concept, which is that God says, worship me or you'll burn forever. No fires in hell. God never once asked to be worshiped. Never once. In fact, the whole concept of worshiping, having a superior being creating an inferior being for the purpose of worship, then you would be as disturbed and mentally ill as is Donald Trump. God does not want to be worshipped. That is, in fact, it's the opposite. He wants to elevate people so that our souls are closer and more on par with him, so we can relate to each other more comfortably. So worshiping God is something he not only doesn't want, but to even express that, which they do, of course, in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, is to degrade God. It is to say God is insecure and needy and likely psychotic in some way. So the religious gods are sick. They are really reprehensible. The actual God does not want to be worshipped. There are no fires in hell. You do not go to Sheol for failing to worship God, or failing to listen to God, or failing to obey God. He doesn't even have a word for obey. You only go to Sheol for misrepresenting God. So you want to misrepresent him, you can go to Sheol for that. If you want to be deceived by the misrepresentations of others, your soul will simply dissipate into nothingness. It's an exceedingly fair system. Yes, Kirk?
Did he ever ask you to worship him?
Never once.
Once.
Never
bow
once.
down.
No, in fact, if he did, then he wouldn't be worth knowing.
That's true.
It's just like you and I creating a tadpole that grows up to be a frog, and we demand that frog croak out, "Kirk is great. Kirk is great.
Kirk is great.
Kirk is great. Kirk is great. Love Kirk. Love Kirk. Worship Kirk. Lift Kirk up."
Bow down.
But how many times would it have to burp that out before Kirk would say, "Okay, come on, this is a real."
We're done with frogs.
Yeah, we're done with frogs. That's just enough. That was really a dumb. That was really a dumb move. What the hell was I thinking? And maybe if it was a pretty girl and say, "Kirk is great. Kirk is great. Love Kirk. Kirk is great."
Might linger a while.
You might linger a while. It may take you 15 minutes before you say, "Okay, I don't think that's really sincere." And so, no, it's preposterous that a superior being would create an inferior being to worship. The whole concept of worship is a religious concept. God hates religion with a passion.
Yeah. In the words of Meatloaf, now I'm praying for the end of time. Ad olam is a long, long time. And even if it is a pretty girl saying over and over and over, Kirk is great, at some point, that's going to get old. So,
boy. Yeah. And by the way, that we know pretty girls saying Kirk is great in Sheol, and Kirk's not going to be in Sheol. But nonetheless, the Allah thing of the perpetual virgins, no, that is really stupid. The whole thing is highly perturbed and disturbing.
Oh.
It's just a shame that that's slander. The presentation of religious gods as if he were the real God. It's one of the most despicable things that are done by the religious and the anti-religious, because they will attack the religious gods as if he were the God, and that's just wholly inappropriate. And that's one of the things that I think causes God to be so frustrated with humans. Yeah, I'm here. Newsflash: God does not like humanity. He does not. It's not that he doesn't love humanity. He does not like humanity. In fact, you can go one step further. Most humans, God hates.
That's a revelation.
Yes. Now, just because he hates you, he is not going to send your sorry soul to Sheol. But 7 years from now, when he cleans house, if you are among those who are still religious and political, after everything we've done to try to wake you up and share otherwise, then it's going to be the end of you. You'll be either incinerated or turned to goo, and it'll just be the end. Your soul's not going to go anywhere. Just dissipate to nothingness. You would have squandered your opportunity. All right. So I just shot you in your car. Here's why. You weren't allowed to hit me with it. Of course, this is the one that is the lie about food. And they want to make the same lie now about what happened in Maine. And it wasn't true in Wisconsin. No, I guess Wisconsin was Minnesota with good, and it was not true in Maine either with Johan would be the name. They're just lying. I've watched, and you guys have watched every manner of video on the good shooting. We went over in Facebook and X, and we looked at all of them, and even had the professional forensic review of all of them. And there was no justification for killing her. It was absolute murder. And the same thing is true here. That car is going around. It does 4 loops in the intersection at idle speed, because he's already dead and dropped over in the seat, and the steering wheel is full cocked, and he's just going in circles. They killed him. There is no excuse for any of this. MAGA, like Trump, have an aversion to the truth because it doesn't suit their deceptions. ICE are monsters.
This fits right in with...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Kirk.
Go ahead. I was just saying, how is this any different than the brown shirts? I mean, or are those thugs down in Alabama? When I'm from there, I know these people, and they just brutalize everyone. Either do what I say, or you wind up being dead somewhere.
Yeah,
but now they do it in public.
They are obnoxious. They are obnoxious. They don't identify themselves. They're in unmarked cars. They're belligerent, and they are depriving huge numbers of people of liberty without probable cause. They literally, this is worse than the brown shirts. The brown shirts marched in the streets and they went into beer halls and they shouted their slogans, but the brown shirts didn't do nearly as much of this kind of terror. And something that I should keep in mind, because Hitler and Trump are very, very similar personalities and character. It was the brown shirts that were actually funded by George Herbert Walker and Prescott Bush, the Bush family's predecessors. And they were funded as essentially a private army for Adolf Hitler, which is how he intimidated the community and protected his movement. Once he became chancellor, once he had used them to achieve his goal, he turned on them immediately. And the reason he turned on them is that the regular military felt threatened by the brown shirts. And they went to Hitler and said, it's us or them. You choose. And when they made that choice, it's us or them, you choose, Hitler allowed the SS to take out the brown shirts. And they did. They slaughtered them. And most of them were killed as opposed to being able to be to transfer into the regular German army. Hitler, when Trump met with the generals a little over a year ago and made them swear allegiance to him and told them that they would be deployed in America's cities and fight his enemies in America's cities. This was the rallying call for what's going to happen. He's using ICE now as his personal terrorist army, and he will turn on them and replace them by the actual military before 2028 and the elections of 2028. So count on it. That's what's going to happen, and that's who they are, and it's going to be history repeating itself. And by the way, ICE, you are not just going to be out of a job then.
You'll be out of life.
But you'll be out of life. The country will turn on you. It will treat you as you deserve to be treated. And even if there is no national justice, there will be vigilante justice against you. You're in serious trouble. Here's the 10. And I don't think this is not even all of them. There are more than this, but
50 died in custody. Yeah.
50 have died in custody, and 10 have been shot to death. And there's just countless people have been dragged out of their cars. This is ISIS Trump's death squad. It's a tremendous shame, and most of the victims were not undocumented workers, and even those that were undocumented were committing no crime, and they were making a net contribution to the country. And the thing that we just need to keep on emphasizing is that the MAGA terrorists, the MAGA morons, will say it's okay that ICE kills a few people because of all of the people that the illegal immigrants have killed. Well, newsflash. Undocumented workers in America are less than half as violent as ordinary Americans like MAGA. So MAGA are twice as violent as our undocumented workers. So you're living a lie. Everything that you believe in, including Donald Trump, who is Satan incarnate, you're living a lie. And it's going to come back to, well, you want to know what Sheowl is like? You're going to find out. It is one thing to have been fooled. It's another thing to be part of those who are misleading others. There's a consequence for that. These souls that ICE killed and that MAGA supported that process and voted for this president to impose these death squads, there will be accountability for every MAGA vote and every ex-supporter. They deserve no less than that. God couldn't be just unless he follows through on this.
I don't understand why there's not a groundswell here in California. If the aliens, the so-called aliens, I call them just the Mexicans who come over and work, if they don't come over here, Seaside has no crops.
Yeah, that's true.
We got nothing. We got nothing.
No. There's no one to harvest the crops in the field.
Right.
No one to clean the sheets in the hotels and motels. No one to serve the food or do the dishes and the restaurant. And no one to build the homes. And no one to do maintenance jobs. America has America has indoctrinated 2 generations of bums. They think that the only job that's worth having is being an influencer. They want to keep up with the Kardashians. They want to be the next Charlie Kirk, and that's all they know. That's all they want to do. They don't work. Things have to be maintained. Somebody's got to harvest the food. Someone's got to keep the streets clean. Someone's got to haul away the garbage. And you're going to look far and long and far to find a kid that was coddled in an American university that's going to want to do those jobs. And so you want to get rid of the immigrants because you're racist. Then you're going to go hungry. And you're not going to be able to go to the restaurant to solve that problem. It could be no one to serve you there. And when your house falls apart and no one to repair it, then you won't be able to go to a motel because there'll be no one to change the sheets. This is the dumbest idea, immoral and idiotic ever. I mean, America is just falling apart at the seams, and it's because of the MAGA morality and the lack of the Democrats to get their heads out of Marxist propaganda. America is a house of cards, just like Israel is now. You've got 2 extremes, and there is not a nugget of truth between them.
Yeah, and if you're undocumented, the last thing you want is police attention, right? And so, how do you not get the attention of the police? You don't commit crimes. I mean, you don't go kill, right? So this idea that that they're coming over and they're so violent and criminal and all this, no.
There have been landmark, peer-reviewed, scholastic studies of undocumented workers versus naturally born American citizens, and the evidence is always the same, that the undocumented worker that's here is less than half as likely to commit a violent crime. So you got everything backwards, MAGA. You're morons. Oh my, Israel, talk about a disaster. Israel under this current government is an absolute disaster. And this current government is only held up because of the long beards and the skull cap boys there. The Haredi are parasites, and the Haredi are able to suck the life out of Israel because they have a voting bloc that votes unanimously for a candidate based upon pre-negotiated graft between the candidate and those parties. And the graft in the case of the Haredi is that they get paid to be parasites, that they don't have to defend Israel, that they don't have to work, that they don't have to go to school, that they don't have to do anything. They don't have to learn English. They don't have to even learn Hebrew. They can stay and speak Yiddish. They can read the Talmud all day long, and they can have as many kids as they want, and they don't have to pay taxes, and they don't have to make a contribution to society. In fact, they're unemployable. And this whole idea that they need to be like every other Israeli and be drafted like every man and woman in the country other than the Haredi to defend the country, they would be counterproductive. They're useless. You can't eat, you can't feed them normal food. You can't have them around normal people. And they are deficient in all the sciences and mathematics and language skills. They are useless human beings. Israel has 25% of its population that are nothing but blood-sucking parasites that have no value and can never have any value. Their lives are completely useless, and they will always be useless while they pretend that they are the ones who are praying for Israel's survival and that they are the great Torah scholar. No, they're reading the goddamn Talmud. The Torah hates you. The Torah hates religion. I mean, the Torah is absolutely consistent as the most anti-religious book ever written. And it speaks of the religious Jews as worse than death. So, no, this whole thing and this Israel passes a quasi-constitutional law. Well, you can't have a constitutional law in Israel. Guess why?
There's no constitution.
They don't even have a constitution.
You got to start
declaring
there.
Torah study to be a foundational value. And that is such a lie. They don't study the Torah. If they studied the Torah, they wouldn't be religious because the Torah is anti-religious. So I know for certain they don't study the Torah. If they study the Torah, they'd be proclaiming Yahweh's name, and yet they never mention Yahweh's name. They hate Yahweh's name. So you know they're not Torah observant. They're rabbi observant, and they're spending all their time in the goddamn Talmud. There is no value to them at all. I mean, my suggestion is to move them all into Gaza, increase the population of Gaza. Move them all into Gaza.
Perfect. Is it really 25%?
20 to 25%, yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize.
Just pure of Haredi, it's probably 18 to 20%.
That's the big number.
And growing rapidly. And of ultra Orthodox and religious Zionists and that sort of thing that side with them on everything, it takes it between 20 and 25%. Yeah. And it's the same percentage of Marxists amongst the Tel Avivers that are not as parasitic, but they are equally
give everything away, don't
yeah, well, yes, equally irrational.
Yeah.
It's why it's just like the Democrats here. 66% of them are Marxists, out of touch with reality. Once you become a Marxist, you can't make a contribution to the society because you have no industrial value to the society. So you're in fact you're counterproductive. So you've got the Democrat Party here that is counterproductive to progress and economic success, and you've got the MAGAs that are promoting the devil himself. It's the same situation we see in Israel. The difference in America is that Democrats represent about 40% of Americans, and 2/3 of them are Marxists. So it's a higher percentage of mental delinquents in America than in Israel. And while you don't have the parasitic Haredi there, MAGA is a religion. It's a cult of personality. And you got 38%, 39% that are MAGA. And so you've got about twice the divide in America that you have in Israel. So it's dysfunctional in Israel with 28% on the extremes amongst the Marxists and the Haredi. In America, it's closer to 40% on either side, leaving only 20% of the country functional. Besides that, do you have any other good news?
It looks like we ran this 19 hours.
Yeah, I love this Luminary series. It's going to blow your mind when we go into and share what I have learned in Isaiah 10 and 11, and it's going to be the perfect answer again to the Malcreants we know as the Mother Goddess cult in their most recent post. They listen to this program, and all they have to do with their lives is to try to disparage me. And yet, fortunately, God's got my back. What he has to say will completely obliterate them again. But that we've been through this now 10 times, where they've made stupid claims on Yahweh's name being male and female, and they got everything wrong. Stupid claims about the 8th Mizmor speaking of a mother goddess, and they got that wrong. That God wants people to be modest, and they aren't, but they got that wrong. And that God has a problem with nudity, and we proved them once again. They got that wrong. That the Choter chapter of Yasha'yah is messianic, and it speaks of a Jesus character, and they got that wrong. Everything that Leah is the evil woman, and they cited Zechariah, and it speaks of them, and they got that wrong. And now they're going after the Choter a second time, and condemning what we learned in the last word picture and the 31st Mashal. And once again, God has our back. It's going to be, I'll take everything they wrote, present it, and say, this is God's counter. Deal with it as you want. But I would tell you that just so that everybody knows, that if there is somebody in particular that is pretending to be covenant so that they are the go-between and working against what we're doing, that I don't have to pay any attention. I won't even try to stop you. But the Malak, no. And the time of judgment is 7 years from now. And every one of them has earned and will receive an express ticket to Sheowl. You want to know about Sheowl? You go there and join them, and you will earn your ticket to Sheowl. It's fair. So be careful what you do. You can do whatever you want. I don't really give a crap, but be careful, because when you are a misleader, as opposed to being misled, it changes the entire equation. And that group chose to follow a psychopath, and they're not smart enough to get out of the way, and are actually empowering the psychopath. It's like MAGAs with Trump, and they're wrong about everything. Like, they just screwed up big time on Shabuah, and rather than saying, "Oops, we were wrong, we better disband, we were wrong," no, they just double down with the next lie. It's one of the common rational fallacies. It's argumentum by distraction. And also this whole thing is, don't look at our faults. Go. He's bad. Go look at him as his faults. Don't look at us. Yeah. Well, God has a lot to say about that. But anyway, I would encourage people to listen to the Luminary series. I think it's profound in its implications. God's first prophecy on the luminaries.
I have a question kind of in the same vein, since we're talking about luminaries now. I have wondered, I mean, we have how to structure it. We have Na'ar, which is we have learning this new not new, but this actual definition of Na'ar that fits.
Right.
Same
God
thing
actually
with
uses
Alma,
it in the 10th chapter of Yasha'yah. He uses it as a title. In fact, the most recent title he throws out there, he takes the verb kalal and kala, and which is based on the Hebrew kol, which means all, and that's the finisher, that's the closer. After all of this is done, he actually uses it now as a title. So kala is one of the titles ascribed to the Choter. He's got like 8 of them or 9 of them just in the 10th chapter alone. But one of them is Na'ar, and then one after Na'ar is Kala, which means closer, finisher. And Na'ar, if you were to boil it down, Kevin, it would be a loud-mouthed agitator. And, for most people, that would be, that would be somebody that God would oppose, right? A loudmouth agitator. No, he loves the loudmouth agitators. It's his loudmouth agitator.
Was Elia? Yeah.
Yeah. He's an Elia type, is what he's saying. As a loudmouth agitator, he's stirring things up and creating separation. That's exactly what God likes. And he's a bit withered, which means he's got some wrinkles to show, some gray hairs to show for what he's done. So na'ar is a powerful term when you go to its verbal roots.
Yeah, he's got a good one.
And it's the opposite of what is commonly and almost always translated as young, right?
Yeah, it is.
Same thing with.
And there is no etymological justification for young. The verb is a roaring, growling, loud individual who is rustling about, agitating, disrupting, and from the verbal root, he is somebody that is intensely focused on removing constraints, societal control mechanisms, and fleecing mechanisms from the flock. That's who a na'ar is.
Right. And then we have Amma, right? This right. word is commonly translated as young girl, concubine, even
concubines, right? Slaves, the servants, and handmaid. There is and this is the beauty thing about Amma, and it's the same thing about Kala. It's the same thing with Adamah and Parah. When God puts the feminine ending on a title that he is using, what he is saying, this is the most complete expression of this. We're going to have this cerebral and emotional. This is mind and heart. This is the totality of this. And what he's actually saying too is that you're going to have a bull that's productive. A bull's going to have kids, and that's a parah as opposed to just a par. These terms are worded like that so that it expands the purpose of it. And now you have a verb like kala based on kol. And so you have a verb that is the full expression of a full expression of total completion and fulfillment. And as sometimes you have to be in the right page to learn. So the first thing we did is we went to that final word picture and said, oh my, what this is saying is that God is redeploying certain souls. And it became obvious because then we traced who their husband was and who the Amma was and who the Asherah was and who her husband was. And we traced them, and that's Ruth and Boaz. And you make these connections, you say, oh my, and that whole Ruth and Boaz story is specific to this story that we're reading in the 31st Mashal, this last word picture. And so if you're thinking about it, your mind is open, you have this foundation, you see all these marvelous connections between these things. So we've then gone through the whole process right from the beginning to say, these are the individuals who have been deployed by God multiple times, and who they are and why they were deployed in this particular deal. Now, with the Amma, it is not only the fullest expression of mother, because Amma is based upon M. M is mother. It's mother with the ending. So it's really kind of an interesting word that you would take a word that is mother, which is obviously feminine. There are no mother dads, right? So you're taking a word that is obviously feminine, and you're giving this feminine word that didn't have the ending in its natural form. So M is not rented as Ma in its natural position, and yet it is perceived to be feminine without a feminine ending. And you give it the feminine ending. So it means the full expression of motherdom. But in the context it's used, it's also a servant. So it's a woman who serves as a mother, who has a servant's heart, who is very willing to get down and do the work of being a productive mother. So it's so rich with so many meanings in the case of Amma, just like Na'ar.
And my question is that at what point did this understanding of Torah get so messed up, and why? Because I mean, the lexicons even have these supporting evidence in them. The language, the words mean these things. Yeah, it's there.
I don't make anything up. If I can't use the actionable root of the word and words that are spelled very similarly surrounding a word to express the definition that I'm providing, I will not provide it. So I only provide definitions that are consistent with the roots as described of the diacritical markings, as they would be in the original Hebrew, and the actionable root of these words, 100% of what I come up with. So when I defined Na'ar, it was based upon looking at the verbal root as opposed to looking and say, why is that young men? When you look at the verbal root and everything associated with it, even the other nouns that are associated with the verbal root, they speak of withered and crotchety and old and aggravating and put offish. No, these are not. This is not a young man.
And yet we get young men carrying sticks, right? Carrying lumber.
Right.
And it's absolutely absurd. At what point does that happen? Because we have to presume that Moshe understood the story. Joshua ben Nun understood the story. Did it start to fall apart around the judges, or was it literally happened in Babylon? We
have an interesting fellow in our midst, and he's kind of like my wife. He's a bit of an acquired taste. That's Perry. And so you engage with Perry from time to time. Perry is a very logical, rational thinker. And he is currently obsessed with the destruction of the Hebrew lexicon. And his concern is that there are 5 vowel sounds that humans can make. And that in any language, you would begin that language by having each one of the letters express that vowel sound. Like, for example, the Y, the Yod in Hebrew and in English actually conveys the E sound. Every word that has it you'd begin with an E sound. And so he's frustrated that it has been corrupted so that the Aleph is ascribed A, E, and I sounds. And the Ain is ascribed A, E, and I sounds. So somebody screwed it up. And the most likely villain would be early rabbis that screwed it up and created these pronunciations, and you can see their villainous work by today. They misrepresent the spelling of almost every important word in Hebrew. So they're constantly screwing with the alphabet and creating V's where they don't belong, for example. Creating Z's where they don't belong. And so rather than the TS, they'll replace it with a Z. Rather than the Wah, they replace it with either a B or a V. And so they're constantly screwing with the language and taking the language away from the letters that were used to write it that all convey meaning because of the way they were drawn. And so they call it the Shiva system, which is spelled and written identically to Shoah. Which would be the proper pronunciation. They changed the pronunciation of the O in their system, but it's spelled exactly the same way. And they replaced the Wah with a V. But the Shiva system means to deceive. It means deliberately to mislead, to misrepresent. And so the very name for their diacritical marking system means to deceive. The rabbis have been belligerently and overtly deceptive from the very beginning. And it's rabbis that created Christianity, rabbis that created Judaism, and rabbis that created the Quran and Islam. They are a really despicable lot. And they're the ones that did the injury to this language. And so our challenge is to try to undo the damage that they have done. That's why we have translations in all of these books, and why we put the generic form of a transliterated sound in the parenthetical so that you can put it into any search engine and validate this. So when I say Na'ar is this, it may take you to a noun form that somebody has subsequently defined as that. But if you go to you'll find the verbal root if you go to the lexicon, and it will immediately say and validate exactly what I'm saying. And for this, of course, I will write paragraphs that explain the process of getting from here to there and undoing the damage. But that has been a huge part of what we've done the last quarter century. is undo the damage that rabbis have done to the text of the Torah and Prophets. And when you do that, oh my, then the floodgates of understanding open. It's like now going through Isaiah 10. Now that we've learned so much in these last year to 2 years, and the last translation I would have done of it was probably 15 years ago. And you come to a completely different conclusion. And then there's just so many things like the last sentences that I dealt with. You have to pay attention. Was the subject masculine or feminine, singular or plural? And that being the case, it was dealing with this the use of kala in a nonverbal form, written exactly the same way as the title, the finisher. And it says the finisher is certain. Then it has a statement that every English translation ascribes to the Lord God, and it has the Lord God says that this is determined. So, and they render kala rather than the finisher, which is what the verb says. They render kala as destruction, and so they have the Lord God say it is determined that destruction is determined. But the verb for determined and decreed is scribed in third person feminine singular, and kala is written with the feminine. So that is the subject of it, and so it's not Yahowah saying that, and so the discipline that is required to do it right is extraordinary. That's why it takes so much time to develop these new books and the translations and the commentary. Is you can't be sloppy about it. It's a disciplined and structured endeavor, and you've got to pay really close attention to the details, or you'll be misled like everybody else. And the only way you're going to undo the damage is to be this methodical and to say, I can't render it that way because I cannot replicate the rendering of most English Bibles because the text won't justify it.
Right.
And then you have little things like after the key, which means it is certain that what is being said with regard to this title now of the finisher, and then it's followed by the conjunction wa and then it has another verb. So it cannot be this and then that. The other verb the conjunction prior to the verb means we've started a new sentence. And so you have to render it that way. You got to pay attention to there were no periods in Hebrew. Punctuation was through the conjunctions.
Right.
So it's just a disciplined process, and now I'm trying to be a teacher here. So as I go through it, I'm not going to just give you the conclusion. I'm going to say this is why it's rendered this way. But
you've always done that.
That's the job. Go ahead.
And you've always done that. So even somebody who has no affinity for Hebrew, as I, well, I could look it all up and I could say, oh, that's how you got it. And every time we did a show, I would sit up the night before and sometimes hours because I'm slow. Yeah. And I'd look it up with both written text and the things that I have on the computer. And I would go, okay, well, that is true. And you really put yourself, the more you look, you put yourself in a hole down to there's nowhere else you can go. That's the answer.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that's just
so satisfying that I know, okay, I can trust this and I can repeat this because anybody who wants to do the research, there it is.
Yeah, there's several conclusions you can draw from that. First of all, no one has ever done that before. Create a translation style that allows the reader to validate or invalidate everything they say. No one has ever been bold enough to do that. And yet I invented that particular style and encouraged people to do it. And I have corrected the lies of the rabbinic diacritical markings and their errors in the Masoretic text to create, almost 40. Well, I've written actually 40 books. I think there's 35 currently presented, or 34, and 3 that I'm currently writing on simultaneously and about ready to do written in stone again. And of course, we have whole volumes that we've written so many times we just discarded the original one. So there's 40 plus all total. But of those books, there is nothing else like it. There's no one else that has completely destroyed the credibility of Christianity with 5 volumes, destroyed the validity of Judaism, destroyed the validity of Islam with 5 volumes, and then has written 30 plus volumes devoted to revealing what the oldest textual witnesses say about the Torah and prophets, and giving you the ability to validate them, and have no one ever been able to prove that what they said was incorrect, and come up with tens of thousands of profound, unheralded insights that have stood the test of time. And that's who they want to go against. You're going to chuck it all in for a known psychopath and a thief and a con artist, and you're going to go with that, and you're going to go and disparage what he is learning from Yahowah. And by the way, if he weren't the real deal, then you would have thousands and thousands of unfulfilled and unfulfillable prophecies from Yahowah. Not only unfulfilled, but unfulfillable. Thousands of them. So now what? What's your plan, Sam?
Yeah, and to Kirk's point, it's a little inside baseball here, but you'll come on and we'll talk before the show briefly about, hey, what you're translating or what you're working on, and say, hey,
yes.
Did you know that what I'm translating now is it's me and Noach and Dode and Shem are the ones that go to Abraham, and and you're talking, and I'm like, okay, that's
powerful
great.
insight, yes. Making a story that had no purpose whatsoever, just a throwaway story that no one had ever figured out. And now you're taking that story and making it the pivotal moment in human history.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that's great. That's great. When do I get to read it? When do I get to see the text where you write, you write it and explain it all out? Because that is the meat of it for me, absolutely.
Yes,
Of
course. And if I wasn't trying to update and write 3 books simultaneously, and if it hadn't been for the dadgun kidney stone and Yahowah pestering me to say, figure out what it means, I'm going to give you a clue, I'll put you in the right direction. This pain is associated with Pesach and with Dode. Now you go figure out what it means. And I said, this is the 3rd night now that I haven't been able to sleep. I'm laying here, I'm open to you, I'm listening. Why don't you just tell me what it means? That was a painful lesson. I'm not complaining about.
Try it another way.
Yeah, no, I'm not actually. I wasn't complaining about the pain at all, but the lack of sleep, because this is a tough job. I do this 12, 13 hours a day, so and I'm no spring chicken. So not sleeping at night does make it harder, and my body was really worn down from the passing the kidney stone. So I kept on saying, "Okay, God. You could make this easier for me, And he said, no, we're not going to do that. Why would we change? Why would we change now? And what would the fun of that be? Figure it out. And sure enough, there it was. It was in Yasha'yah 11, and I've shared with you what that was. And then this powerful voice just says, so? And I said, so? Yeah, well, so? Are you just going to start here? Or are you going to do what you have always done and not cheat yourself or anybody else out of what I had to say? Why don't you go back to the beginning of chapter 10 of Yasha'yah and to see what else I had to say and the context that this all plays out with? And there are a whole lot more titles. The guy that had the moratorium on no more titles, we've got a full quotient on titles. If you got another title, I'm going to scream. Well, then he keeps on piling on the titles, but the titles are all descriptive of the work that's being done. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like it, but God's thrilled with it. I mean, he's just absolutely thrilled with what we do. So we're going to keep on doing it. But that's how chapter 10 became so powerful, and I'm still in the midst of it, and it's goosebump kind of tingling. It's so exciting to be in. So anyway, the whole concept of the luminaries, to have used the last word picture to go back in time and to start with the first prophecy being the Gadol and the Katan Mayor, and all of the references that God has to those 2 individuals throughout time and how they serve one another and ultimately get the job done. And God now is used this Isaiah 10 to get us to the remnant, and his last statement was that that's all you're going to get. Israel is like the rocks that are pummeled at the seashore, and so the best we can do is this remnant. So it's pathetic in numbers, but it's a major achievement nonetheless. It gives David's kingdom. It honors the promise Yahweh made to Abraham. But it's going to be about 1 in 10,000 Jews, and less than 1 in a million if you look at people overall. But he does the comparison between the battered rocks along the sea that he has to pick up those pebbles and bring them into Jerusalem, versus the number overall of Israelites. And he's saying essentially you're rock hard, even with all this agitation. With the sea trying to spew you out, I had to go grab you, and this is the best we could do. It's pretty gut-wrenching in places.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. I think we should be able to play this. This is one where I think it's Facebook saying they want to limit distribution because they think that the song somehow was copyrighted. But I think this is the library. We can play because a lot of it repeats. We could play the first 10, 20 seconds of it. I think this is the library one. Let me see if I'm right.
Music.
I would say this is very close to Yahweh's view of Yahowah.com.
Wow.
Yeah, this is I don't know who did the graphics for it. Probably Leah, but it's just a beautiful presentation of what God envisions of Yahowah.com. It's just beautiful library place to come and learn. And this library is going to be open during all 1,000 years that we celebrate Sukkah in the return to the garden, which is why you can see the plants in the garden outside of it. Lovely place. All right, thank you. We'll go on from there. Okay, this post here was about the dollar being the principal tool of international trade and the power of the dollar and that sort of thing. The Petrodollar is something people really ought to know about, because it's going to play such an important role in the future, and I'd rather have you informed than not. The Petrodollar came about because Richard Nixon had a really big problem with the deficit. He came after Johnson's Great Society program, where Johnson said that the welfare and Medicare will never be more than 1% of the taxation base, or 1% of the government spending. And of course, now they're both upwards of 1/3 of total government spending each. And so he was in a real problem. There was no funding for them, and we were on the gold standard. And so there was no way to devalue the currency to pay for them with devalued currency. So he took us off the gold standard, and then he went over to the Arab fiefdoms, and he made a deal. He said, your family estates with flags. Let's just be clear about this. We will ensure that your family estate with a flag continues to get filthy rich. But the return for us is that you agree to sell all oil and gas denominated in dollars. And if the world has to have dollars to buy gas and oil to keep their economies afloat, then they have to continue to buy dollars, even if we price the dollar at artificially low rates of return, and even if we're constantly creating artificial dollars and devaluing the currency, which is the worst thing for somebody holding a bond. If you have 100 of something and you all of a sudden replace it with 100 more of it, what you owned is worth half of what it was previously worth, which is why in America now, if you go back to the 1950s and compare the current currency, it's worth 1% of what it was in the 1950s. So the government came up with a means of paying for things that you did not have the money to provide by devaluing the currency, but creating the illusion of solvency through the petrodollar. And this was something that was worked out by Nixon. And subsequently, we have accumulated $40 trillion worth of debt. Mm-hmm. And at this point, even if we were to take the interest rates up to 5%, 6%, 7%, no one will buy the debt. You could take the interest rates up to 10% and no one would buy the debt. But at 10%, you'd be adding $4 trillion of debt every year, in addition to the $2 trillion that the government spends beyond what it takes in, particularly now under Trump with the huge increases in the military. He's doubled military spending. So we have a completely dysfunctional system. And we have now that Trump has destroyed the petrodollar and has betrayed all of the states with flags. There is no one to support the petrodollar. China used to be a major buyer, but now China is nothing but a seller. Japan used to be a major buyer of bonds. They are now just a seller. Europe used to be a major buyer of bonds. Now they're just a seller. Russia used to have bonds. Now they have none. Totally. And so everyone is shorting U.S. treasuries. No one is buying U.S. treasuries. So the only way to keep the illusion that the United States is still solvent is quantitative easing, where they make where the money comes out of nothing. So they create pretend money to buy the debt, but all that does is it inflates the currency, which makes it worth less, so that your saving is what is paying for all of these services, because your savings is being destroyed. And the value of the currency that you've worked to put into savings is being destroyed. That's where we are, and there is no solution for it. And Trump has completely obliterated the value of the petrodollar. So you just need to know that the consequence of that is economic collapse, and they will do it initially by continuing to aggressively increase the money supply. They will have no one to buy the bonds. Then they will say that the gold that they pretend to have is worth a lot more than it's on the books, and they'll use that gold to artificially write down the debt and create smoke and mirrors. Then they'll do the Great Reset, where they will replace the currency with another currency that they completely control. And all of these will be control mechanisms that are going to be imposed on Americans, and it's just to postpone total and complete anarchy and economic collapse. But America, there's nothing left of it anymore. So you're not going to make America great anymore. You've made America bankrupt, and there is a debt collector, and that's called anarchy.
Yeah, I thought that it would be a not anarchy, but there would be so much unrest that people would want the Great Reset, would want to go for a new currency, because their debt would be wiped away in that, you know?
Oh, no, it's if you're confused that this is something that the people are going to revolt against, just go back to the days of COVID. COVID was a farce. Was there a virus? Sure. A virus was concocted in a lab in China, and an accident happened. It was spread around the world, and the COVID was used to deprive people of their liberties and their livelihoods. And it was extremely effective. People were absolutely willing to give up their liberty and livelihoods and yelled at anybody that wasn't. And the same thing's going to happen. The government's going to, people believe Trump. I mean, it's astonishing that somebody could be that stupid, but they do, and they will. He will say that you have to give up your dollars just for the good of the country. We're going to give you this currency that's so much better, and I'm backing it, and so they will do it, because one of the incentives will be that all debts will be forgiven. Because he doesn't care that you owe anything to anybody. The money's not worth anything anyway. So what does it matter? He'll just say, the benefit is you no longer have a car loan. You no longer have a home mortgage. You no longer have payments to your on your credit card. We'll wipe out all debt. You accept the new currency. And 95% of the people will go right along. So it's not going to be forced on people. It's just that the reset is nothing but smoke and mirrors, or it is a control mechanism wrapped in smoke and mirrors. It will give the government absolute control. They can shut off your car. They'll shut off your electricity for your home. They will end your internet connectivity. They will rob your bank account even of the new currency. They will preclude you from being able to buy and sell anything. It's just a control mechanism that they're imposing.
Right.
And they are that dastardly, in case you were wondering.
Oh no, I had no illusions that they were. No. They are that dastardly. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
This is just funny. I don't know if this will play because it's actually from X. We may have to. I think I probably have it on X. We can actually go to X and play it. But it's just stupid. So it's probably one we won't risk on this point. Let's go to the next one. What this has is the clown in chief, and they have Trump as a clown, and So well, I'll go ahead and try to play it. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, so it takes you to X. Okay, play it. I don't know why we don't have sound on it.
Jewish people too. Actually, I think God is very proud of the job I've done, and that includes for religion. We're protecting a lot of people that are being killed, Christians, Jewish people.
We're protecting people who are being killed.
By me, that wouldn't.
How can you protect somebody that's being killed?
President.
You can prevent people from being killed, but you can't protect people who are being killed.
Right.
And God hates religion. And God hates religion. And he happens to be, and this clown happens to be Satan incarnate. But I mean, just think of the stupidity of his statement there. I think God is very proud of me. Yeah, I love God. Just loves a pedophile and a rapist and a consummate liar and a mass murderer. Yeah, you're perfect. And an egomaniacal psychopath. That's the kind of guy that God's all in with it. He obviously was the religious God was in. Muhammad was that. And so was Paul. So yeah, religious gods really are into that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Indeed, they are.
Indeed.
I wonder if McDonald's is going to sue. I don't know that he can dress up in that exact clown suit.
Yeah. So let's. Now the risk of going here, I don't know if we're going to stay on. If we take into, this is my Facebook page. So this is an interesting scene. This was in Aurora, Chicago, with ICE doing their thing. Go ahead and play it.
We lost our share tab. So I don't know we'll be able to hear it. I don't think you'll be able to hear it.
Okay. Yeah, he's screaming. He's unmarked car, screaming, telling her has to get out. There's somebody that you can see all the smoke on the other side. Someone shot a gun on the other side. So there's a muzzle blast that you saw from the gun. She's saying, "What in the world you doing? I've got kids in the car. You're shooting guns. Are you out of your mind?" And they're just belligerent assholes.
Can you hear it now?
This is America's terrorist goons. Yeah. Look at that. Look
Could you hear the
aggressive way a masked man gets out of the car. If that's your America, you're proud of that, you can go to hell. In fact, I'll open the door for you. Yeah, belligerent, unmarked car gets out of that unmarked car looking like that, wearing a mask, and he's going to expect a woman who is protecting her children to respond to that? No. And this is happening every day across America. America is doomed. What do we have next there, sir? Oh, yeah. No, take this one. This is another one. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ice thugs against this one person. And he happens to be a U.S. citizen. and five agents slam against a wall and then against the concrete.
That's fucked up.
And people are yelling. This is effed up. He works here. He comes here every day. He is a U.S. citizen. He's told you to check his ID. He is a U.S. citizen. And these thugs just keep on doing it. They're out of control. They're out of their mind. There is no fixing ICE. There is no fixing MAGA. There's no fixing Trump. This is we now live in the Fourth Reich, and this is Der Fuhrer's version of hell.
And he wasn't resisting at all.
Why did he
any
do
of
that?
it.
He just slapped him on the arm. He's in handcuffs, and he hit him on the side. What in the
scooping people?
This guy, he's saying, what in the hell with these stupid people?
Fucking streets. What kind of illegal shit is this? Bullshit.
Yeah.
They go to planes.
Bullshit.
Trucks, cars. Go another one right there.
Think of all these cars that have been given to these a-holes and how they have been.
These motherfuckers wilding out here, bro.
How they're being used and the guns and the.
Without even letting them identify themselves and shit.
Yeah, didn't even allow him to identify himself. Just yanked him off the street, stole his freedom, beat him up.
All day, every day, U.S. citizen, and they gonna fucking scoop him up without even letting him identify himself. It is bullshit, bro. Look at this shit.
It is bullshit.
Watch out for your people out here. Yo, Poppy, that's fucked up what they did, bro. They just scooped them up and they do nothing.
That was the proper use of the F-bomb.
Yes, it was.
That was an approved use of the F-bomb. This is Trump's America. And if you're a MAGA twist-in and you support this, I'll hold hell's door open for you. I will try to get you an adjoining suite with your Lord and Master.
Yeah, the counter to this, I'm just surprised hasn't happened yet, because it's right there. They already have protesters that are following ICE agents around essentially and supposed to be, interfering with them or and
they're getting beaten up.
And they're getting.
I heard it was the previous head of ICE, that guy that liked to wear the Gestapo shirt jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was telling them, they touch you, you beat them up.
Yes.
You terrorize them. This is your city. It comes all the way from the top. They touch you, you beat them up. Comes all the way from the top. He kept on saying, "Yeah, this is Trump's terrorist gang. This is his personal militia, and it's designed to terrorize the country into submission, because he's not intending to leave that office, even after his ballroom is officially done, which may take past 2028. He's not leaving until 2030.
What I'm saying is that these guys are acting with impunity at this point. At some point, you're going to have American people that will start following them around, and these guys are going to have to start ducking. They're going to come under fire anytime they get out of their cars and try to do something like this, because then the population just disappears into the crowds, into the population.
At Pretty, he was a nurse in a hospital, and he came armed with nothing more than a cell phone camera, and his intent was to assassinate them with the truth. Record what they were doing, expose it, very much like I try to do with expose people using your words. And he was a nonviolent protester that was recording their inappropriate behavior. And he got into the line of fire because ICE came off and they started beating up a little old lady. And he tried to protect that woman. He was a really nice man. He tried to protect the woman. And that's when they took him down and shot him dead. And so I would not advise anyone to respond to these belligerents with violence. I would suggest that I would collectively advise people to withhold their taxes, withhold any service that they're providing to the government, refuse to participate in anything that is America until they're held accountable. I would encourage, in other words, the Gandhi kind of response, which is if the majority are non-compliant, the government can't continue to be abusive. So I would encourage people to educate themselves. Now, I would not do this unless you know the truth, unless you know Yahweh, because you'll be putting your life at risk, even to be a nonviolent protester. And then you have the problem of, if you know Yahweh, you don't really give a crap about the politics of the nation. And so once you know Yahweh, all you can do is speak out against this. And we speak out against it because we want people to disassociate from it, because it's only when you disassociate from it that you can reach out to and come to know Yahweh, and your life can have meaning. So my suggestion is to completely disassociate from the American political mindset. Join us on X by condemning all of this. Use your words intelligently in that regard, and try to awaken as many people as you possibly can. But America, to support this is to be grossly immoral. As that man said, he used the F-bomb correctly. You know, it's true in this case that that the West has been. He said, you know, the West has been filling their bellies like vampires with the blood of people for years. And it's true that the United States in particular, and that's what he means by the West, the United States has been vicious. The United States created the proxy war against Russia and sucked the lifeblood out of 2 million people. It is now trying to do the same thing in Iran. We did the same thing in Libya and in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and it over and over and over again that America is a vampire sucking the lifeblood out of the world, and he is correct in saying that. Russia is a victim here; they're not a perpetrator. They're a response.
We blew up their what am I trying to say? We blew up their oil pipeline, and I mean, my God, what you can say?
Actually, we didn't. Seymour Hersh was wrong.
Oh, was
it? It was blown up by Ukrainian special forces.
Oh well.
On the direct authority of Zelensky. So that war was actually started. The first act of that war was actually by Zelensky and his special forces going and blowing up the pipeline. And the dunderheads, we did a show on it, the dunderhead that did it. Oh my God, let's see. I can leave my DNA on the scene. I'll leave my fingerprints on the scene. I'll leave the explosives that were used on the coffee table of the salon and the yacht that I rented to do this. And then I will leave my fingerprints on the lease for that yacht. I will make certain that they know that it was me who did that. And then this nincompoop, this Ukrainian special forces operative, he has a recorded call because immediately after doing it, they did the investigation and it went straight to this guy. And they had irrefutable proof the moment that the Nord Stream pipeline was blown up, which was before the war, who did it. And he was arrested by the Italians, and the Germans wanted him returned because it was the pipeline that was feeding Germany, and they wanted him extradited to Germany. So he picks up the phone and he makes a phone call where he admits that he did it, and because he did it, he needs to be protected from being extradited to Germany. And so he confessed to the crime on top of everything else, and he's got his fingerprints and his DNA all over it. Oh, so they have him dead to right, proving that the Ukrainians started the proxy war. They fired the first shot of the proxy war against Russia, and yet the world yawns and blames Putin for when he's the victim. You know, we just had Lindsey Graham die, and he was the warmonger that years before the war went to Ukraine. He's recorded on video. You can watch him with John McCain. Telling the Ukrainians, and these are the Nazi forces of the Ukraine, the private militias, to go off and kill ethnic Russians in the Donbass area because it will cause a war. And he says it'd be the best investment we ever made. We're providing you with weapons to go kill Russians. There could be no better investment that America could ever make. And this is the kind of creep that that represented America, started the proxy war, and yet you have 80% of Americans that think that Putin initiated the war. I mean, we live in a world of really stupid people that are so easy to mislead. And if you write that on X, what you'll find is 99% of the people will condemn you for telling them the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is irrefutable. It's obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no advocate for Putin. I think Putin has made a lot of bad calls, and I think right now Putin needs a set of cojones because he's lost his cojones. He's being attacked by Europeans all around, and attacked by the United States, and he's about to lose, or not to lose, but he's having his second most important ally pummeled, and you don't see him responding. Now, while the West propaganda would have it, you believe that he is losing the Ukraine war. He is winning the Ukraine war in a major fashion, but he's losing refineries and other things to missiles that are made in Europe and guided by Europeans, and he's not responding. And if you don't respond, ultimately, you're going to lose your country. So right now, Putin, who's been the ultimate pacifist in all this process, needs a set of cojones, or he's going to be history.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. It's the missile and interceptor equation all over again. You can't continue to lose refineries at the rate that you can bomb their facilities that their stuff comes from, because they just,
a 25,000 drone can do, billions of dollars worth of damage economically, and there is no stopping that unless you make the price for doing it untenable, and that's what Russia has to do, and he hasn't done it. And the only way you can do that is to use conventional weapons, which Europe has no defense for, and to bomb all of Europe's missile and drone factories to stop them from doing it. Just to say that we told you this was going to happen. You continued to do it. Here's the consequence. We don't want to escalate this beyond what we're doing, but you've earned this consequence, and you know it. So now, what are you going to do? If you want to escalate this into a full-on war, you're going to get creamed. Our military is 20 times better equipped and has greater numbers and better training and better weapons and better supply lines than all of yours combined. So you want to go to war, you're going to get creamed. Don't do this. Just stop. Yeah. And then it'll be fine. Just stop. And this is the problem that Trump has. He's lost the Ukrainian war, and he's lost the Iranian war, and he continues to do the same thing, expecting a different result. He was threatening again last night to pound Iran with bombs, violating the MOU that he signed, and then said that if they don't capitulate, and he says they'll come to the negotiating table. No, they negotiated a deal. It's just every time they negotiate the deal, it's the same deal, and it means that Trump has to surrender. And he signed that and agreed to it multiple times that Trump has to surrender. And then he realized that he actually reads it, or somebody reads it to him and says, I don't like that very much. And he can't honor his own deal because he happens to be Satan. But then he's back on the same thing. Then we're going to start blowing up their refineries, and we'll blow up their bridges, and we'll blow up all of their infrastructure, and we'll blow up their desalinization plant, which is a grotesque war crime, which means if you're the U.S. military and you're carrying out that order, you are not shielded. You have committed a gross atrocity and a war crime, and the U.S. nation is guilty of war crimes. And then you have the problem of every time that America does that, Iran retaliates and makes the situation worse, and you're already to a point of no return. The famine late this fall and next year cannot be averted because of the fertilizer.
Yes.
And economic collapse of nations cannot be averted. It's been too long now that the strait has been closed. And now that Saudi Arabia has decided they would go attack the Houthis, the Houthis are going to keep Saudi from being able to ship oil out through the Red Sea. So the world is so screwed up because of the egomaniacal nature of Trump. It can't be fixed. And the U.S. bases there are just gone.
Mm-hmm.
So all Trump has is a land invasion. And if he does that, you can kiss all of America goodbye. That's what the Iranians want. But there is there is no chance under any circumstances that his guardian of the sea is going to work, that his blockade is going to work. He can't go off and attack Chinese ships. Cannot do it. And so the blockade will not work. He can never go back to the bases that have been destroyed and the Arab fiefdoms that are there. He can't do a land invasion without suffering huge casualties for America. And if you think there's no way out of this war now, imagine what happens if you deploy troops to land on those islands. Then you are really in deep shit. And there is no way out, and you're going to have tremendous casualties. So we're in an unwinnable situation, and his ego will not allow him to admit that he lost, and until he admits that he lost and allows the Iranians to control the Strait of Hormuz, which that was the price of losing, then there is no remedy here. So his ego won't allow that, and that is the only way out. And then, he said, I'm going to do the Iranians wanted a 1% charge on unfriendly cargo through the strait. He wants a 20% fee on friendly cargo.
All of
20%.
it. Mm-hmm.
He was going to continue to have the Iranians not to be able to ship anything. So he was blockading them, and on friendly cargo, he was going to charge 20%. Which, is untenable. I mean, just what a stupid ass thing to say. And then somebody said, that's not only a stupid ass thing to say, it's criminal. The godfather of this criminal enterprise backed down and says, we'll get them to make major investments. It'll be even better than the 20%. What a piece of shit. God, America, you are just so screwed up. I mean, this is an F-bomb worthy as well. Trump and MAGA, you have F-bombed this country into oblivion and have destroyed the petrodollar in the process, America's military in the process, the office of the presidency in the process, your economy, your credibility, everything you've tossed out the window, and you're now completely isolated all by yourself with a child in a sandbox having a temper tantrum. Good for you.
Yeah,
you voted for that.
I think he's going to invade Karg Island. I think that he's going to invade Karg Island, that there will be a land war. Absolutely. My only question is, will it happen before or after the midterms? Can the people in his administration slow play him enough to say that
thinks it'll happen after the midterms? So he is being advised by the former generals who are paid by the military-industrial complex, of course, to do it because they make money when Americans die. So because we're out of missiles, so Trump can't resume the war with missiles because we're out of missiles and we're out of interceptors. And truth be known now, the Patriot is an obsolete missile system. It's an obsolete interceptor system. It works about 4% of the time, and it did not keep up with countermeasures. So the Patriot is useless. That is so expensive that you can't afford to use it, and you can't replace the interceptors, but about 10 a year. So that is useless. The Patriot is useless. They are all deployed. America is vulnerable as hell. And the likelihood is Iran already has a bomb, and there's no way of rectifying that situation. Trump lost on everything, and there's no way out because his ego won't allow him out. Now, so the thought is, and he has people deployed to go be cannon fodder and land on a beach. And I can't imagine him doing that prior to the midterms, because then he is in a Jimmy Carter spot with captives and with casualties. POWs and casualties. So it's hard to imagine him doing that prior to the midterms. And after the midterms, it is conceivable only because of his insanity. It's an inconceivable act, and that it has zero chance of success and will make the situation much worse. That's not to say that he couldn't land troops on any one of the islands that are there. It's just that he cannot support them. He can't resupply them. He cannot protect them, and he can gain nothing from them. They provide absolutely nothing of value and are totally vulnerable and isolated as targets. So only a madman would do it, but he's demonic. He's mad enough to do it. So the one thing I do know about Donald Trump, there's certain things I can predict, that he is Satan incarnate because the prophet said so. He will arrive in Jerusalem on the 29th of January of 2030 because the prophet said so. And that he will announce that he is a god on the Ides of March in 2030 because the prophet said so. And that he will continue to be egomaniacal, continue to be a sexual pervert, continue to be deadly and deceitful and destructive. We know all of those things are certain because the prophet said so. We know there's going to be a nuclear confrontation in the world because, again, that was actually even written in the Torah, pursuant to the work of the Nachri, and comparing the world to the present condition of Sodom, which is what we witness. And it's replicated in the prophetic texts of both Yasha'yah and Sheowl. So the person who would be igniting that is Donald Trump, with all of his stupidity and his craziness. So he views himself as the next Napoleon, as a Julius Caesar, as an Alexander the great conqueror of the world. And America is not enough for him. He wants the world, and no amount of death will satiate him. So is stupid land troops and American boots on the ground on the islands in the Persian Gulf, is that possible? Yeah, because of him, it is possible. Are we sure it's going to happen? No, we can't be certain of it because it's so insane. Mm-hmm.
That's just my point. My point is that what the gloves are off when how crazy this person is, right? Correct. And so what is the absolute most insane, worst thing you could possibly do? That's my bet that's what he's going to do. So
no, it's not the most insane thing you could do. A nuclear bomb would be the most insane thing you could do.
Well, he'll follow that up. Things are going badly on Karg Island. Okay, well, let's just bomb Karg Island with a nuke. That takes care of the problem, right?
When Putin finds his cojones and holds Europe accountable for America to pretend that it's the great savior of NATO, and for America to respond directly to Putin would ignite World War III instantly. But he's turned his war against Iran into a regional conflagration. So it's only a matter of time that spins out of control too. But he's doomed the world to starvation and to economic depression, and so there's no solving it now. And part of the problem too is it's not just that the world has gone now 4 months with 20% reduced access to oil and fertilizer and gas, but the Iranians in retaliation have taken out a very large percentage of the ability to produce these things. In America now, Trump's saying we're going to go bomb the Iranian refineries. Well, if you take out Iran is the largest producer of oil. You take what they have out. You've now bombed their Russian facilities, so they're no longer able to export, particularly diesel. So then the next catastrophe is diesel. That means the trucks can't deliver food or products to stores, and that means the farmers can't plow or harvest their fields. So the next catastrophe is diesel, and Russia is no longer an exporter of diesel because of the damage that was done to their refineries. They're actually an importer. Talk about the disruption of the system. I mean, Donald Trump is the dumbest piece of shit ever to hold national office, and he has really worked the world into chaos.
Yeah, there just aren't that many acres of peanuts for us to start using diesel the way it was supposed to be used. So
you can see Wookie here is looking because his girlfriend just walked in. Leia should bring his girlfriend Maybe we'll get a little wider angle on this this camera. Leah will bring his girlfriend. She's now she is actually a little jihadist at heart, but she's dressed in pink. She's dressed in pink at the moment. She has a pink pearls on, and is dressed in pink. So this,
it's lunchtime.
Yeah, this is and Wookie just sat down and says, "I'll share my my yak bone with you." So, yeah. This is pretty darn cute, huh?
I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. All right, we can go to the next slide. Wookie says, "Okay, well, I'll share my table with her. No problem." Wooks is a share. This is just a cute piece. And God has a real simple plan. He wanted Adam, who as we now know as Dode, to be his beloved son, and he wanted to share the universe with him. And unfortunately, in the garden, Dode didn't measure up, and in the garden, Sheowl made it worse, not better. And then as they began to proliferate outside the garden, they made it worse in a hurry, to the point where God says, "God, I really don't like man at all. I regret actually creating man." And then we got Noach, who was Chinook, to re-engage and said, "Okay, we can reboot the system. Let's work this through." And collectively they did. And there's it's a man and a woman working together. Noach and his wife, they were a team to make this happen. And then this parlays into the story of Ruth and Boaz, which is the ultimate love story. It is the story of the covenant. It's the most beautiful story I think ever presented, is that love story and what it represents in terms of delivering the kinsman redeemer, and how Ruth is the Amma in this process. And then you see how they restore Dode's relationship with Yahowah when they come back. That's the whole purpose of the 89th Mizmor and the 31st Mashal, is this presentation of their return to restore Dode's relationship with Yahowah. And then they work to enable Dode to fulfill his destiny, which is to serve as the Passover lamb. And now they have returned again to, by the way, this beach. This is the actual beach where we live. And they have returned to this beach and are in the business of restoring Yahweh's name and Dode's reputation, because God wants his son to return and have a kingdom. And at this point, he would have, nobody in his kingdom. That is our mission. So it's a cute little piece.
I know that palm tree, by the way.
You do know that palm tree, yeah. You know that is our beach right here. We did. And you can too. We share it all. We keep no secrets. Yep. Lovely, isn't it? Very simple message.
Like Yah's plan.
Yeah, it's a very simple plan, and it's a lovely plan. Men and women not working in opposition to each other, working together to build and support and conceive family, which is what he's all about. And the son he wants most to be properly raised and guided is his own Dode, the beloved. Well, one of the things we constantly encourage people to do is to shed your ignorance. God said, "My people are destroyed because they're ignorant." And you can shed your ignorance. This happens to be the 5-volume series, 4,200 pages all total, on exposing and condemning Allah, Muhammad, and Islam. It's irrefutable. You want to understand this menace, how Satan operates, how religion operates, This is a PhD course level, and the nature of the fraud that is false gods and false prophets and religion. And in this book, you will also come to know the rabbinical contribution to the Quran and why the rabbis should be held accountable for making Islam the religion it is today. But here's in these books, I take the Quran, I provide 6 translations of it, including my own. For every verse of every surah of the Quran, I set them all into the context of Muhammad's life, rearrange them chronologically, and use the Islamic hadith that are actually more credible than the Quran because they're better documented and attributed to explain Allah's book. And it's, as I say, it's irrefutable, but it shows that Muhammad was not a prophet, Allah is not a god, that Islam is a criminal enterprise, and that it's inexcusably misogynist. It does not belong in a modern world. It needs to be quarantined, and that the intent is to perpetrate apartheid and then genocide. If you're in favor of apartheid and genocide, then you'll love it.
It's not an easy read, but it's something you need to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's all that hard a read. I mean, it's interesting.
It is interesting. It is. I'm talking about the subject matter is tough to stomach. I mean, you're digging through Satan's.
You are digging through Satan's trash, but I think it's presented in such a way that you get a chuckle here and there, and there's places where it will enrage you to the point of how in the hell did the religious and political community and media community in the world get this so wrong? It's so obvious how evil Islam is, and yet you look at X or Facebook or the mainstream media or politicians or the religious, and they all have it wrong. The truth is, if you don't want to know the truth, then you're going to be victimized, just as Yahowah has said. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, for their ignorance. And so if you want to remain among the ignorant because it's a long, tough read, then so be it. That's your choice. You will be destroyed. I made the effort to resolve that for you. This is a really pretty library. It's a different rendition on the library, but what we're about is Yahowah.com, the library where the books actually open themselves for you. They turn the page for you, and they talk to you. And the talking books are extraordinary. Let's just go ahead and play this one too. They're beautiful. Power of the written and spoken word. Yeah, I wouldn't say yield to him is the right term, but will you respect him? That'd be the better term. Yeah, that was not the one that I thought it was, but it's still a beautiful piece of the power of the written and the spoken word. And the books at Yahowah, they will open up for you like that, and the words will come right out of those pages. It is the most amazing audio book ever, because it is the integration of the actual book where the pages are open for you. The pages turn themselves for you. They highlight what you're on. You can read the words and even pause it and copy and paste every word into a search engine to validate them and to stop it, and it'll resume where you were. And they have multiple voices on every book that speak all of this to you. It's the most extraordinary expression of the written and spoken word brought together in human history. And it's done on the most important books ever written, because they will literally save your soul, and they will explain the world to you as it actually is. Yeah, this is supposed to be Einstein saying that those who have the privilege to know have a duty to act. And I would go to one step before him. I think we all have a responsibility to know. When you are ignorant, you ought not have a say in anything. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is highly destructive. A society that is ignorant results in what we're witnessing across America now. It's ignorance that keeps that Ukraine proxy war going. It's ignorance that keeps the Iranian war going. It's ignorance that causes people to lash out and hate Jews. It's all based on ignorance. It is pure ignorance that causes MAGA to continue to thrive. It's ignorance that caused the Democrats to be Marxists. When you advocate ignorance, as all of these political and religious entities are doing, you are destructive. And I think we have a responsibility to learn, to know. As I say, the byline of who we are is listen, learn, and live. Listen, learn, and live. It's a responsibility. It's a call to be accountable.
It is absolutely, now that you say that, absolutely astounding to me that we are in the middle of two wars, and there is absolutely no pushback against the United States removing itself from either conflict whatsoever, from the left or from none whatsoever.
And it's actually worse than that, because we kidnapped the head of state of a country and we're confiscating the oil. We've got Rubio as the viceroy of Venezuela, literally confiscating their lifeblood and putting it in a Donald Trump bank account. At the same time, Donald Trump is demanding that the U.S. control Greenland. At the same time, he's blockading and threatening Cuba. At the same time, he is threatening, and that's what his speech is going to be on tonight. He's going to blame China for meddling in the U.S. Elections, when in fact it is the U.S. that is the principal meddler in elections in the world, and has been for the past 75 years. It's the biggest spout of hypocrisy in the world that he's going to tout tonight. And here you're taunting Russia into world war, and you're taunting China into war, and you've got 3 live wars going simultaneously. And it only happens because most people are just ignorant. You were to poll Americans, it'd be 80-85% that thinks that Putin is the aggressor in Ukraine versus the United States, or that thinks that the Iranians are the bad guys in this present war. I mean, I despise Islam, and so the Islamic State gives me the willies, and nobody knows Islam better than I do. So I know how awful an Islamic theocracy is. But by the same token, I know that the Iranians were the victims in this war, and that the United States and Israel are the perpetrators, and that as much as I love Israel, the government of Israel is complicit in doing something that was incredibly destructive to Israel. In fact, Iran checkmated Israel. Israel has no moves left. They're completely isolated and defeated, and their egos won't allow them to say it, which is why this next 7 years is going to be so reprehensible for Jews, because they can't get it out of their goddamn heads that their God has abandoned them because they were obnoxious, and they continue to be obnoxious and belligerent, and the whole world has come to hate them. And the world has come to hate them, some for their own cause. Yes, Christianity is a huge part of that problem, because the Christianity blames Jews for killing their God. And Jews are hated by Muslims because the rabbis mocked Muhammad after selling them, after he sold them, the rabbis sold them Talmud stories. And then when he claimed they were Allah, the rabbis mocked him, and so a psychopath turned on the rabbis and the Jews. So they created that enemy. They created the Christian enemy because they trained Paul to be the a-hole that he was, and creating the myth of Jesus, and they never responded to him when it was so easy to do so, and they didn't. So they're responsible for the monsters that are terrorizing them. And now they've turned the world against them by their destruction of Gaza, which was just unbelievably brain dead. It had zero chance of working, and it was 100% guaranteed to turn the world against Israel, and it has. And the subsequent 2 wars against Iran, where the Iranians played them for fools and checkmated them. Israel, you're really screwed up at the moment. You're very hard to defend.
You know, I didn't realize, if I may interrupt, I didn't realize that how pivotal the story was of Moshe in the desert when he just, first he says, "Just kill me. I can't stand it." And then they became so bad. He said, "Good. I don't have to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I'll just talk to the people I want to talk to."
Yeah, that was actually God gave up on them before Moses did.
Yeah.
So that's it's interesting. When they came in and they started being religious and cantankerous and belly aching about everything, God actually gave up on them. He had one last shot where he said, "All right, give them 3 days to get prepared. I'll come down. At least I'll bring my light down and my voice down from the top of the mountain. I'll speak directly to them." And they were obnoxious. They told God to shut up and go away. They never wanted to hear from him or see him again. And God said, "Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'll honor that request. I don't want to see you guys either. You stink to high heaven. You're obnoxious." And so they had already done that. And in the what you're talking about is the 11th chapter of Numbers, where they're only 3 days out of Choreb, and the children of Israel become so belligerent that God burns up everything around their camp.
Yeah.
So once again, it's God that gets angry with them first. And then Moshe is looking at this and saying, "Wait a minute, they're obnoxious to me. They're threatening to kill me. They're belly aching about everything. And then the God that I'm serving here is burning. He's so mad at them. He's burning up the camp." And so Moshe, for the second time, went to God and said, "You're a meanie. You putting me in this position is grossly unfair. I don't appreciate it. I'm resigning from it. And if you don't like that, then just go ahead and kill me." And the Jews were obnoxious, and God was just more disgusted at them than was Moshe. And it just got worse. It never got better, and it still hasn't gotten better. And that is a pivotal point where God's made it very clear that he wasn't going to talk directly to them again, and nor is he going to interact directly with them again. And by the time you get to Hosea, God's writing them a letter of divorce.
Yes.
And saying, "Because you're so religious, I'm divorcing you. I'm divorcing you for religious infidelity. You have all of these false gods. You can just go to hell, as far as I'm concerned." And he says, "I am leaving, and I am not returning until you return to me." And so, of course, that's what we see in the 10th chapter of Yasha'yah as all of these events play out. He's got everything. God didn't miss a trick. It's got it all. And he finally says, there's a remnant, and they'll shub. And when they shub, I'll shub. But he's not shubing. He's not returning to care or protect Israel until there's the remnant that returns. And at the same time, he's obliterating the religious. They run out of time to shub. Shub for shub or no shub for you. And in the end, no shub means obliteration. Oh, with some incarceration. With a dash of incarceration, I should say. But yeah, it's an amazing story that the Torah is the most anti-religious book in the world. And there is no book ever, including Mein Kampf or the Quran, that speaks more negatively of religious Jews than does the Torah. That's why when Jews, rabbis pretend to be Torah observant, I said, you're nothing but hypocrites. If you read the Torah, actually cared about what the Torah said, you'd know that Yahweh is God's name and that he hates religion and is most opposed to Jews being religious. And the consequence of a Jew being religious is to die. Now, don't pretend to be Talmud observant. You're not. You're lying. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Yeah, this is the end of the one thing. Realize that when all things, there's too little understanding and people become too inconsiderate of you. The old line that is the better line is that no good deed ever goes unpunished. I deal with that with our the a-holes that are part of the female clique of the mother goddesses, where treated the perpetrator, the malcontent psychopath that runs it, defended her and gave her more than anyone ever in her life, and gave her tens of thousands of dollars to support her, all based upon her ongoing lies. And then what I get back in return is betrayal. and not just betrayal by her, but she dragged a whole lot of people into her lies, and it is ultimately reprehensible. And they're posted. They hashtag my name on social media, and post these lies about me when I was the most generous person they had ever known, and the most protective person they have ever known. It's the epitome of no good deed ever goes unpunished. And I'm here to tell you, I will have a very long memory in this regard. And the only thing they could have ever hoped was just to lie down and shut up, because then I would have been less focused on putting the world out of their harm's way for them. I would not have been nearly as fixated or focused on making certain that they are held accountable. But they continue to double down, and so I will not lose sight of what they have done. We don't have to look at this. That's me having fun with words. English language is so damn complicated. I just thought it was fun. Just from a pedantic point of view, because that makes my job as I'm a wordsmith, is just to share a few of these. So I posted a few of them just to get people giggles on how complex English grammar is. And I don't claim to be an expert in English grammar at all. My expertise is in Hebrew grammar. And the Hebrew grammar is much more interesting and much more clearly understood. There are these 7 stems, and they define the relationship between the action of the verb and the subject and the object of the verb. It's just marvelous the way that God has created these stems to define their relationship under that action. And then he has 3 volitional moods, with perfect for a God who's views free will as the single most important thing to maintain. And then he's got the imperfect and perfect conjugation along with the participle and the infinitive, so that you can show ongoing or constrained action either as a verbal noun or just constrained to time. And it's so much better than past, present, and future tense to be able to define the action of a verb, either on an ongoing basis or a truncated basis, either with the them being presented as actionable nouns or just as defining the action between the subject and the object in an ordinary way. It's just a marvelous language. And so I love the Hebrew grammar and come to appreciate it much more than English grammar, where I would probably still flunk, which is why I have copy editors. We occasionally have a subject-verb disagreement, not too often, but we'll make 4 or 5 of them in a book that need to be corrected. And we have some dangling modifiers and some run-on sentences. And occasionally I'll make a statement that doesn't have a verb in it. And, most sentences need a verb. But, in Hebrew, there are a lot of sentences without verbs. God makes the point through the words that he has chosen, and it doesn't necessarily have to have a verb. So anyway, that's my...
And he wrote with pictures too for the ignorant like me. Oh,
yeah, he did. Yeah, that's what that means. He drew pictures of the words that he was communicating with, so that you could visually see how they were to be read and defined.
I think it's more of an issue of our cognitive abilities degrading over time, that English has come about being more specific, of having to say more words to define or describe the same picture or the same thing, where in Hebrew it's done contextually, very simplistically with one word, because it's understood.
I mean those one words though conveyed a meaning that we need many English words to convey what the word meant. You're packing more meaning into a single word in Hebrew than you would have in the same word in English, so that it takes 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 Hebrew words to fully define the Hebrew word. But the languages are just different. One of the tragedies of English is that the longer it's been around, you get to the point where there's more exceptions than rules. And when there's a language where there's more exceptions and rules, I'm really uncomfortable with it. So I write as I speak. And sometimes, that bothers the purist and the linguist. And it's the job of my fact checkers. And I have 5 really wonderful fact checkers. They are really, not fact checkers, but editors. 1 fact checker and 4 editors. And they are really good. I mean, their understanding of English is so far superior to mine, and their adherence to grammar rules. And 99% of the time, I will adjust what I have written so that I'm conveying what I had to say in a way that is grammatically correct in English when they point something out. But occasionally I'll just let it ride and say, it's trying to be either funny or make a point by not being grammatically correct. And sometimes that's important when you have books that are as emotionally and mentally packed as these are. So when you read something that isn't grammatically correct, it's usually because I overrode the editors, which is my prerogative. I'm responsible.
Rich said that he got a new connection out to the outdoor studio, so that we're going to have a better streaming quality out there. Is this true?
I guess that's so. We haven't been out there as often. It's my favorite by far, but we haven't been there quite as often. Mainly because we've had this bout with Sahara sand. And so you lose some of the contrast with the Sahara sand, and sometimes the wind blows there, and it's a little bit more challenging. My favorite by far. It's easier to do the show in here. We just have more tools to get it done, and you can see the luminary shows we're doing in here now. We brought one of our cameras over here, and we're still getting outdoor shots, so that we're not stuffed up inside of a dark room, because those ocean shots are the views that I have right out of this window here. Kirk, you've been here and seen that.
Yes.
So we're trying to bring a little of the inside here, and then we really do have the Ocean Studio dialed in now, where it's a much better studio. We're going to work a little more on the connectivity to it, and Rich is on that. He's got about 20 dangling modifiers right at the moment that he's trying to deal with. He's working 14 hours a day at least, and so it's a lot to deal with. I mean, he really has a full plate. Let's go one more, and then we'll call it a day, fellas. But it's great to see you again, Kirk. I'm so glad.
Oh, it's a pleasure and honor. Thank you for having me. Have a good time.
So there's a price to pay for speaking the truth. There's a bigger price for living the lie. I disagree. Yes, there is a price to pay for speaking the truth. Truth has always been unpopular, and it has never been as unpopular as it is right now. You want to know what it's like to speak for God, you should spend a day in my shoes. This is a really, really difficult. Well, look what Moshe did when he was exposed to it. Look what Dode had a breakdown. Abraham didn't do well under the pressure. Jacob did very poorly under the pressure. Yishak didn't do well under the pressure either. It's consistent almost all the way through. There's very few characters in God's story that don't break down under the pressure. Chinook happened to be one. Noah happened to be one. Boaz happened to be one. Ethan Hajraki got it done, happened to be one. And now this guy that God's got going at the end, who he says is his finisher, he happens to be one. But I want to tell you, there are times like this morning when I saw the latest, you just want to scream and say, God, this is grossly unfair. I'm pouring my heart out here. I'm working as hard as you can do. The job that you're asking me to do is a damn big ask. And I'm here doing it. And I'm happy to have it. And I love working with you and everything. But, sometimes you got to deal with these things. And so there is a price to pay. But the bigger price isn't for living the lie. Living the lie means your soul, your whole life is just a waste. There is no no price to pay for living the lie. You live the lie, at the end of your life, you will have made no contribution to the world, and you will leave it no better or no worse than you found it, and your soul will be dissolved to nothingness. So that's the whole point of having three destinations for human souls, with the vast majority of human souls being dissipated to nothing, is that if you live the lie, if you're, and so many people today, boy, you look at this, the last two generations, they look for whatever the most popular lie is that's being pontificated on X or Facebook and social media. You live the lie, your life will be worthless, and at the end of it, your soul will dissipate into nothingness. That is not a big price. There's no price, no value, no price. The price is to be someone who speaks for God and speaks the truth. You're going to come to the same conclusions many times that Moshe did. Now, I've not come anywhere close to that point of view, but there are times where you're saying, this may be an impossible job that you're asking me to do here. I never go to that point. I just say, boy, this is a really difficult job. And sometimes I'll say, God, that was a really big ask. Are you really sure that, that was a big damn request that you're asking this time. And every time that he comes up with a new title or a new responsibility, or worse, praises you for doing something, like being there for Dode and being willing to incite the Romans to crucify my son, and then to be crucified alongside of him. That was the biggest damn ask in the history of asks.
I would think.
And and this current situation isn't much less than that either. And it ends gruesomely. Well, it doesn't end gruesomely. That has a gruesome episode in it. It ends magnificently. But God's asking a lot. And sometimes you just got to say, I know that you got the seven spirits, and there's a lot of support, and there's a lot of attaboys, and I appreciate it. But, sometimes I would.
Where do you get all the strength from? What made you so tough?
Oh, yeah.
I've watched you for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm tough. Yeah, it is. It's tough. I am tough. I'm resilient. I'm tough. I'm resolute. I have never given up, and I'm never going to give up. I think it's a character that was forged over millennia. I think is part of it. I think part of it is that between each episode, there's time in Shamaym, time to recharge, and many of the memories come back from all of these different experiences, and then there's this ongoing explanation and witness from Yahweh's prophets that explain what we've done and how important it was, what we have to do and how important it is, and how God's all in with us doing this. And you get to the point where you just cannot even fathom the idea of coming this close and then letting God down. Yeah, it's just too much for so many that are writing on this, that you want to see it through. It's another 7 years. We can do this. I can tell you that when I counted, I think it's 1,250 days on the Temple Mount, speaking to numbskulls. That's going to be tough duty. I want to tell you, speaking to numbskulls for 1,250 days and realizing that 99.999% of the numbskulls are going to be like this mother goddess cult that we're dealing with, just impervious to evidence and reason. It'd be like, posting 30,000 posts on X and expecting to have a positive result. It's a lot of effort for very little return, and yet that very little return does two things that mean the world to Yahowah. They provide his son with the kingdom that he wants, and they facilitate a positive response to the promise that God made, that he would ultimately restore his relationship with Israel. And so it doesn't have to be a lot of them, and that the remnant is enough of them. So we do what's required for God to be able to honor the promise he made. And we provide for his son the kingdom that God wants him to have. And we restore his reputation. We restore Yahweh's name. And that's extraordinary enough. That's enough. And we're not going to accomplish anything more than that. Some things we do. I mean, we leave the world without excuse in terms of the religions of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, and God wanted that. And we leave with a highly educated, involved, and committed covenant family that will serve God's people over the 1,000 years of the millennial Shabbat and be part of God's family forever. And we've created a really robust library that will become the book of knowledge, is already the book of knowledge, but will be officially acknowledged as such. And I think we've set an example. And the example is, the job is tough, a lot of obstacles, a lot to overcome. But you can do it. You can figure it out. You can listen to what God says. You can learn from him. You can live as a result. You can actually do this. It is doable. And I think just about the fact that we're here doing it and consistent doing it and sharing everything and offering it freely and taking the lumps as a result sets the example that God wants. It's doable. It's achievable.
What a deal.
So I think there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. And you said you've been with me for over 20 years. We've never flinched.
No, not at all. I've been amazed at the whole process, and I still learn. I sit here and take notes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I do too. My notes make their way.
I get as much as listening as talking.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. When you get your strength back a little bit and you get your home situation worked out a little bit, and I know you've tested clean now for the big C. So this is a really encouraging thing, and that you're each day you're gaining your strength back, and we still got some work to do on getting Sylvia back totally to health.
Yes.
But once you're settled, I'd love to see you start a show. It could be on the just teaching the Hebrew Paleo Torah alphabet. It could be on the grammar. It could be on the definitions of words based upon the alphabetic characters that were used to describe them. It could be going through your glossary, or if you don't like those things, pick another subject. But you're knowledgeable, you're credible, you're presentable, you're all the kinds of things that is somebody that engaged doing this would be really beneficial. And the nice thing too is that you're so well liked by everybody that you could pick almost anybody to be your co-host.
How about if I just go to all theirs?
Well, you can you can absolutely do call the next witness. You could do that, and
in the meantime, I could probably do that.
Make a major contribution to that. But
you're very kind.
Ultimately, I think that that whether or not you do a Yahowah book club, or you do a glossary, or you do the perspective that can be gained from the letters, or you help explain the grammar of Hebrew, and you have a tutorial that helps people understand, which you've done over the years, or just show how you take a book and fact check it because you've done it so often.
Yes,
you could walk through the process of validating it and fact checking it, and Kevin will definitely help with the tools to do so. You've already got the camera and the lights and the ears and the microphone, so you've got all that already working for you. And it is easier to do it with. I think most things are easier with the co-host than they are alone.
Well, you like to speak to somebody. At least when we were doing all those shows, we could trade off each other and just keep the conversation going. So Just a sound out to the screen.
Exactly. So it would be better. And as I say, you're beloved, so you could pick almost anybody to partner with you. And there are just really a lot of wonderful folks out there that would love to do a show with you. You can pick, any time. You can do it once a week. You can limit to an hour. In fact, Rich and I said, because there's so much to finish in these 3 volumes that I'm writing right now, that we'd keep this show under an hour and keep the Luminary shows under 45 minutes in the afternoon. And so far, I'm doing a really good job.
How's it working for you?
Yeah, how's that working for me?
I don't even put the timer up anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's part of Nayar. Highly verbal, verbose.
Highly verbal.
Speaks.
Man can talk, can he?
He is a talkative one. That one.
This is only the second day of the shortened version.
Yeah, this is the second day of the shorter version, and
we're off to a great start. 2 hours.
I'm off to a great start.
Well done, boss.
I'm bullish. Yeah, I'm bullish on everything. It's true. All right. Well, on that note,
yes, sir.
Signing off.
Take care.
Good day.
See y'all later.
Bye, y'all.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.